Welcome everyone to Real Estate with Gwen Price. And as usual, we're doing our monthly market update. And with me is Lana Watier, broker of record for Keystone Real Estate, and also Trina Tallon with Neighbourhood Dominion Lending. Hi, ladies. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
Hi, Gwen.
Everybody had a great Christmas, and I guess it was different.
Good. Pretty quiet, but all good. Still,
Yeah.
it was nice and it was good.
Yeah. I think to some degree it wasn't such a bad thing because I think I had the amount of money I spent was drastically reduced except for food and some other beverages. Yeah. So, but anyway, I'm always excited about the start of a new year. This one, I mean, last year we had no idea what was going to be hitting us in 2020, but I'm excited for 2021.
I am too. I think it's going to be a good year. I think we're going to be on the same trend, housing market wise, as we were in 2020. So that's good for some. It's looking like it's going to be the same. Like Gwen, you were talking about the stats. It's just don't have a lot of inventory even for January. So I think at this year, I think every time is going to be a good time to list your house. Like people say, you don't move in the winter. Not true.
Well,
because they need to move. So
when I look, I mean, of course, the price range that is always of interest to the most people, it's 250 to 300 on either side of that, and our so right now in the city of Greater Sudbury, the number of listings in that price range is 58, and 10 have offers on them. So there's 48 for the whole of the city of Greater Sudbury. And for when I look at the Sudbury Real Estate Board on a whole, in all price ranges, there was 217 listings and 20 already have offers. So 197 listings in the whole of the Sudbury real estate market, which includes the outlying areas. And that's not very much inventory. And that's all price ranges.
What people have to remember too, that also includes not only the outlying inventories, but Manitoulin Island as well.
Yeah.
So you take into that geographic area, the region of Sudbury that includes Espanola, Massey, and Manitoulin Island. That's not a lot of properties. That is usually you'd have that just in one, just in New Sudbury or just in Garson or just in Chelmsford. But that is not a lot. We have a serious listing shortage.
What would it typically be this time of year?
Well,
just a guess.
I think, like when I look back in previous years, I think we were like way back, like maybe 2000 and something. It was you just see it. The graph goes down like this over time, right? So and there's a lot of people looking, and when you look and you've only got like 48 listings in the whole of the Sudbury Real Estate Board, Sudbury City proper, that's not a lot in that price range, 250 to 450. That's not very much inventory.
For sure.
Yeah, already, I mean, you can see we are in a lockdown, but we're an essential service and people are already, out there looking, and it's just, there's not much, but it's a pretty good time to list your property. That's for sure. I mean, the average sale price, just to let you know, for the city of Greater Sudbury, it's up about 11.5% for 2020. And the projection is the prices are still going to increase. But we're still affordable here. And a lot of people, it isn't affordable, but comparing it to other, like somebody just sent me, for Toronto, the average sale price was $950,000. Comparing to 333.
We are still a very affordable city to live in, and there are typically options in the outlying areas and everywhere in the city for people to move to, and we've been moving to this trend of a seller's market for the last couple of years, where we've seen a steady decline in listings on average. I think what's happened because of COVID is a lot of the people that were planning on selling refinanced. And Trina, you can probably attest to that. There were a lot more refinances going on. So those people now refinanced and they're locked in for 3 years or 5 years. So those listings, those potential listings are gone. They're not, they're it's not like, oh, I'm gonna, maybe I'll do it next year, unless they refinanced on an open end mortgage. So that just increases our lack of available properties to sell that much more. And I think we're going to see the same trend we had in 2020, in 2021.
If people are refinancing instead of selling right now, to wait until this pandemic is a little bit more under control, they really should refinance into a variable rate mortgage and not fixed, because there's always a porting option, but porting's not straightforward like everybody thinks it is.
Yeah.
With a variable rate mortgage, you only have a 3 months interest penalty, whereas with fixed rate, that's when you hear about these huge penalties, because they're interest rate differential penalties and they're based on the lender's posted rates versus what the actual interest rate is. So that is one of the downsides of these low interest rates right now, because posted rates are still remaining high. So when they go to break a mortgage, you hear about these huge penalties in the fixed rates. But now is the time to do a switch or a transfer or a refinance, because especially if you have a mortgage coming due this year, it's worth it to pay the little bit of penalty to renew. Talk to your mortgage agent or call me, and it's good to renew now, because I'm hearing that we're going to have a little bit of an upswing possibly later in the year, but who knows? It's not going to be a huge upswing, but we're still looking at the potential of having an upswing. And with, rates so low right now, it's
where else
so
can
worth
it go
it.
but up? You know what I mean? They are so low. They're not, realistically, they're not going to get much lower. They have nowhere else to go but up. So yeah, if you're going to do a refi or whatever, do it now.
Trina, what's involved when you say refinance? What's involved to the average person? They have to do a new application, there's a whole credit. What goes on there?
So there's two different options, right? When you're changing a mortgage, there's a straight transfer. So you want to keep the same amount of money that you have owing on your mortgage right now, and we transfer to another lender to take advantage of the beneficial rate. Or there's a refinance, and a refinance is almost like purchasing a home all over again, because you're taking equity out. Either one requires, income verification, so pay stubs and, potentially letters of employment, maybe T4s, depending on your job situation. And also with a refinance, there's always an appraisal that needs to be done.
Right.
Because you're removing equity. With the transfer, it's a 50-50, and the lenders pay for that appraisal. And they also pay the legal fees most of the time to get that transfer done. A refinance, there are going to be legal fees of about $1,000, but so many people refinance to pay off other debt. That is the biggest percentage of a refi is for that. It's not necessarily for home improvements. So to pay $1,000 to a lawyer to refinance, and $400 kind of thing for an appraisal, you're saving a heck of a lot more money than you are paying 10, 15, 20% on credit cards and lines of credit and things like that. So
like maybe touch on, like you say, you have to have a lawyer. So you're not buying a house again, but what the lawyer is doing is registering that new document.
It's registering anytime a dollar amount changes on a mortgage that a lender has, even people who stay with their own banks and they do a refinance, 99.9% of the time legal fees are involved because of the fact that you're changing how much is being registered against the property. And that has to happen. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it.
Yeah. So when your mortgage becomes due, say it's due in July this year, can that just be automatically renewed, or do you have to go through a whole process, or what happens with just keeping your mortgage the same?
Well, people should never just automatically renew. They should call me or their mortgage agent and talk about what the next 5 years of their life looks like.
Uh-huh.
And because if you automatically renew, you get a piece of paper in the mail. 9 times out of 10, the automatic renewal is not the best deal for you.
Right.
And you may not, maybe should not go back into a fixed rate mortgage, because you may down the road want to plan to sell in a couple of years. Well, then you should go into a variable instead of a 2-year rate, because if your penalty is going to be a heck of a lot less, like I said earlier. So
Mhm.
if those renewal papers come in the mail, definitely pick up the phone and call an actual mortgage agent and find out whether or not there's better options out there for you. There'll be a little bit of homework to do, it's what I call it, but it'll be more than worth it for you in the end.
Yeah.
And you shouldn't wait until your mortgage, like if your mortgage renews on June 1st, you don't want to wait until May 30th to go in there, because those kind of things take time, right?
Yeah.
If
Yeah.
you don't say anything to your bank and it automatically renews, then you're stuck.
Mhm.
Correct?
Well, and most lenders, when it's if your mortgage is due this year, call me now,
Yeah.
because
Better
Good
to
advice.
get that information and be prepared and
Yeah.
it's just like buying a house, because if you decide that, a lot of folks don't realize the amount of money that they're paying out when they have debt. Even if you have like $5,000 left on a car loan, but if you're paying 8% interest on that $5,000 on that car loan, or that snowmobile loan that's at like 4.5%, but it takes like 30 years to pay off because the payments are only $200 a month kind of thing.
Mhm.
Those kinds of things need to be looked at for your own financial responsibility. And it's a lot less expensive to have it in your mortgage. Now, what I tell my clients all the time, because they say, I've had clients say, yeah, but I only have $5,000 left on my car loan. I don't want to have to pay, for the next 20 years of my mortgage interest on that car loan. Well, the mortgages that I deal with allow for an additional 20% increase in your payment, but they also allow for a 20% increase in the amount that, like a lump sum amount that you can put down on the mortgage. So let's say that car loan is $500 a month. So every month, still pay the $500 against your mortgage,
Mhm.
because
Yeah.
that significantly decreases your principal that the interest is being charged against. So if you had another year on that car loan, pay the extra $500 a month as a lump sum payment, as if you're still paying that car loan,
Yeah.
and you're saving that much more money.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
that's good advice.
Call Auntie Trina. She knows.
How
For
long
sure.
is it when somebody submits an offer on a property? How long is it? Do you really need to get approval of a mortgage?
So that's this, right? It's not a straightforward answer. Okay, had a young man last week, full-time at a local mining contractor for the last 5 years, down payments in the bank. He's doing 5% down, and it's his own savings. It's not a gift. And he's full-time permanent, went and wrote an offer. And before he went and wrote the offer, his realtor said, you have to call Trina because we're in a competitive situation. We need to know.
Yeah.
Super fantastic credit. The guy was approved after I got the offer. Took me about 2 hours to get it in, and 3 hours later I had my approval back.
Yeah, that's great. But that's not reality for a lot of people.
That's the exception to the rule, though.
That's with me having, like, ahead
Yeah.
of time, this
Yeah.
young man got me his down payment. So I had his proof
Yeah.
of down payment in my hands before he wrote an offer. I had his letter of employment. I had his pay stubs. So,
Yeah.
If push came to shove, he could go in unconditionally.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
but, and I saw the listing before he went in to see it, and I felt comfortable with the property, and I talked to the selling realtor. So cross T's, dotted I's, all that kind of stuff. When you start getting into situations where the client has not gotten a pre-approval yet,
Yeah.
and their down payment's coming from a gift and investments and RSPs, like 4 or 5 different bank accounts, and they have 1 or 2 or 3 different jobs, and or they're self-employed.
Yeah.
If they're corporation, if we start getting into corporations, then we're looking for personal T1 generals and notice of assessments and statement of account for the last 2 years, and last year's corporate tax returns or notice to readers, articles of incorporation. There's a lot.
Yeah,
And what
yeah.
a lot of folks don't realize when they're a corporation is that it's not just what's sitting on their personal income tax returns. The lenders and the mortgage insurers rip apart their corporate returns. And if they show losses and they
Yeah.
show that they really can't support the income that they're paying themselves, we have a problem, because you are your own corporation. It doesn't matter if you have 500 employees or you're on your own, kind of thing. So, Gwen, sorry, I can't really give you a super straightforward answer.
I knew you couldn't. I just want people to understand how important it is to, when you talk about doing homework, we're talking about all of those documents that are going to be able to substantiate what you're making, where you're making your money, where's your money sitting in a bank account, all of those things. And you can't just throw out an offer and not have done that, because it just is going to take so much longer, and maybe it's not going to work out because it is complicated.
And more lenders are, as soon as that application gets submitted, they're emailing and saying, we want to see their T1 generals.
Yeah. So,
especially when rental income is being used right now because of COVID and people not wanting to pay their rent, or not able, I should say, able to pay their rent.
Yeah.
So rent's been deferred, or it was deferred. They want to see that. They also ask me for investment statements to make sure that people have fallback who own rental properties, that what happens if they can't make the tenants can't pay, and then the landlord, they have to make sure that they're going to be able to pay their mortgage, right? Yeah. So COVID's done Shirley really kept a list of how COVID staged lending. But it's amazing. Like, I have clients that have portfolios of rentals, and I've been dealing with them for years, and we're constantly refinancing their various properties because of the increase in market. And every time they're saying, you're asking for more stuff this time. I said, it's the situation we're in. It's above and beyond what we're normally used to. So, having all your CRA documents prepared, at least have that ready, and income documents, and prepared before you even go house shopping, because you have to prove that you actually can pay for what you want to buy.
Yeah.
That leads me into my down payment. I want to talk about down payment today, if that's okay. Is it good time for me to interject?
Can I buy a house with no money down?
Well, possibly. That's another conversation. That I very rarely get that call, actually.
Yeah.
Another session we can talk about.
Yeah, we will.
Because it's a completely different animal and all that kind of stuff. And you have to understand that with mortgages, it's a multi-tier when it comes to the rules and regulations. So the government sets a whole bunch of rules. The mortgage default insurers like CMHC and Sagen and Canada Guaranteed, they set their own rules. And then the lenders have their own rules. So we have multiple tiers of rules happening that have a little bit of flex sometimes, and some are like full stop, this is the way that it is. One of those rules that's full stop, that's just the way that it is and there's no way around it, is down payment. What a lot of people don't realize is that down payment falls under the anti-money laundering legislation put out by the government of Canada. Because as of last fall or last summer, something like that, I'd have to check the date again, Canada was the #1 country to have money laundering and real estate committed against.
Wow.
Because we're Canadian. Know that.
We're nice. We believe everything. Oh, where'd you get that money from? Oh, yeah, no problem.
Exactly. Yeah. Well, it's caused a whole bunch of different issues. Again, another episode. But it's interesting because you can have down payment come from RSPs, investments, gifts, equity takeout from other properties that you own, or plain old-fashioned savings. The interesting thing is that my down payment clause in my approval email is about this long, because we need, if it's from savings or RSPs or investments, I'm going to ask you for the most recent 90 days of bank statements. And those bank statements need to have your name on them, the bank's name, current date, and like I said, within the last 90 days. If there are any out of character deposits, so all of a sudden there's like $2,000 deposited, $2,000 deposited, $2,000 deposited, and you're not paid $2,000 every 2 weeks, like it's a different thing.
Yeah.
They're going to ask for backup.
Yeah.
The rule is if $10,000 or 2% of the purchase price is deposited into the account, the government wants to know where the money came from. And it's whichever is less. So a lot of people think, oh, it's 10,000. So I'm going to deposit $2,000 a week for 5 weeks. That's still $10,000.
Yeah. Yeah.
And they want to know where it comes from.
Right.
Then backup documentation needs to be produced. Gifts. Gifts are fine. A lot of people use them. More and more lenders are asking for proof that the donor had the money available, which
So they
means
wanna
bank
see-
statements from the donor.
Yeah, they want
Okay.
to see their bank statement to match up to the receiver's bank statement.
And people are like, who cares? I've got the money.
Yeah.
Well, no, because if it came out of the donor's unsecured line of credit, it might look like that's something that you may have to pay back, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that's that. The other thing is that every penny of down payment needs 90 days of statements when it's from your own personal savings. Doesn't matter, investments, TFSAs, RSPs, checking
Okay.
accounts. Clients will move money from one account to another account to another account to another account, then back through the accounts again. When they do that, I need every bank statement that money has gone through 90 days.
Mm-hmm.
So when I have clients that I do pre-approvals for, and I tell them right away, don't move the money, leave it where it is.
Yeah.
Like, it's not worth moving it to that 1% interest account. Like, just pump the brakes.
Yeah. Yeah. No, really.
And leave it be. So, because and that's what gets frustrating for a lot of people, because everything is golden with them. You know, they think that they're doing everything right. They have the full-time job. They have great credit. They have the money, but they've moved it multiple times.
Yeah. Well, and even Lana, we know as realtors, FinTrack, when we talk about that, we have to document. That's why we ask for ID. That's why one of the questions on the back of the form is like, have you done transactions with this person in the last 5 years? And the government's looking at that because they're looking to see, what are you doing with all that money? You know?
Where are you getting your money from? And
Yeah.
how many transactions are you participating in a 5-year 5-year term? Yeah, to track that kind of stuff. And
Yeah.
rightfully so. If we're number one mortgage fraud,
Well, yeah. You know, like the
there's a reason
average
for it,
person
right?
doesn't understand, you know, because they're doing their life and they're going along and everything's fine. But there has been huge amounts of money that have gone through real estate, you know, on the West Coast, down south, you know, so they're definitely, and it's become an issue. And that's why we've got all these rules and regulations.
And I always say to people, don't take it personally.
Yeah.
It's not that they think that you are actually laundering money, but they can't have different criteria for everyone. This is it across the board. And another point that I really want to make is that a gift is not savings. So if I ask you, where's your down payment coming from? And you tell me it's in a savings account, I do ask, you know, has it been there for 90 days? Has it been accumulating? Or is there a large amount that's gone into the account? And so after the approval and we get the commitment signed and more bank statements come in, because honestly, not everybody has their down payment by the time they write an offer. They may need a few more they may need a few more weeks of, paychecks, or
Yeah.
they're waiting for their income tax returns, or, things like that are happening, or they're getting an inheritance. So sometimes I will get down payment documents after an approval, and then that's when things start to pop up. So
Yeah.
always remember, these underwriters at these lenders, they're paid top dollars. They are 2 steps ahead of us all the time. And, I like to think that I'm pretty smart, but they are smarter than me.
Oh, can't believe that.
Well, it's happened. It's been proven a few times.
But that's why, again, it's so important. If you're thinking of buying a house, even if you already own a house, no matter what your plans are, that's why it's so important to talk to a professional realtor, talk to a professional mortgage specialist, and find out what's possible or not possible. It's not a slam dunk necessarily. I mean, but you can help guide them to where they want to go.
And please, if you don't call me, but you should call me or one of my colleagues at Dominion Lending, if you do still want to go to your bank, get in front of the mortgage specialist.
Yeah.
Not your financial advisor, not the day-to-day people. They have so much on their plate that they have to be worried about, like, doing loans and credit cards and lines of credit and things like that. They do a fantastic job at it. But the world of mortgages since 2018, especially getting into COVID now, with COVID, has really changed. And you don't want surprises. I had a guy call me yesterday. He's dealing with his bank and said to me, blah, 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 I need to. And I went, okay. You close in a week?
Okay, no problem. Yeah, well, again, that's why you need somebody, a professional, that's what they do. Same as if you're going to have a surgery, right? You want that specialist looking after you for that. They're
you don't
specialists.
go to a foot doctor for heart surgery.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, you're right. Things are much more complicated. Over the years, we've all seen it, right? You used to go to the bank and sit across the desk from, the manager and beg for a mortgage, that kind of thing. That's long gone.
And it was a handshake and I'll see you. I'll see you later. Here's the keys. It's like, well, it's not the same anymore. Those lunch counter handshake deals don't work.
And I always laugh because, people sometimes say things to me about what the documentation looks like and why you have my pay stub and you have my T4s. Why do you need a letter of employment? I say, hey, I just co-signed for my stepson. I had to get a letter of employment from my lender. Like, this is not, it's not the lenders that are making these decisions. Again, it's government regulations because of prior history of so much fraud and people defaulting. So
and you're right, Trina, you can't take it personally. The rules are the rules. Everybody has to follow the same rules. It's not, I'm sure you couldn't care less what somebody else makes in a year. That's not what the point is. The government and the bank, they need those documents. And if you don't have them, you're not going to get the mortgage. So, suck it up, get the paperwork, just do it, and you'll be happy on closing day.
Well, and that's why we have a stable banking system, I believe, for the most part, where, it's the Wild West in parts of the world. So, I mean, that's a good thing. I mean, Canada's a strong country. So those rules are there to protect all of us as citizens of this country and this province.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So, well, thank you, ladies. I'm excited for 2021. I know, we had no idea last year what was happening, especially around March last year when we got hit with all of the news of what we were going to be faced with. And we're still kind of in the depths of this, but we're going to get out. And in the meantime, people still need places to live. And they are buying and they are selling. And that's our jobs, is to help them do that.
It's the biggest tax-free investment you can make. So
absolutely,
this is a great time to sell because the market is still so high, and it's a great time to buy because the interest rates are so low. So
that's
giddy up.
Very true.
Awesome. It's going to be a great year too. I'm looking forward to it. I think we're all it's going to be another wild ride, but hang on tight.
Yeah,
take,
that's
take,
right.
take your vitamins.
Take the right,
Exactly.
eat right.
That's right. Well, thanks again, ladies.
Thank you
Take
so
care.
much. Have a
Okay.
happy January.
Yeah,
Happy
you
New
too.
Year.
Yeah. Take care. Bye-bye.